And even as the G7 summit concluded smoothly with U.S. President Donald Trump adopting a more cooperative tone instead of openly attacking his European allies, well, Italy is now up in arms. An alleged comment by Trump on Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has riled Italy to the extent that its foreign minister called off his U.S. visit. Spain's PM Pedro Sanchez also expressed his solidarity with Meloni. And it all started with Trump's interview with Italy-based La 7 channel on the sidelines of the G7 summit earlier this week. Visuals showed Meloni and Trump deep in conversation and sitting side by side on a small sofa. However, Trump reportedly told the channel that he merely indulged the Italian prime minister by chatting with her. As per the transcript released by the channel, the U.S. president was quoted saying, and I'm quoting here, "She begged me to take a picture with her. She wanted a picture with me so badly, I wouldn't have taken it, but I felt so sorry for her." Now, while the channel didn't make the audio of this conversation public, the U.S. is yet to confirm this. And Meloni took offense at this alleged comment, accusing Trump of lying. She expressed surprise at the way in which he treats U.S. allies. Listen to this.
Donald Trump's statements are completely made up. I am frankly astonished. I don't know why the President of the United States behaves like this towards his allies.
In an indirect reference to Trump's public praise for leaders like Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin, Meloni lamented that Trump treats adversaries of the West with a great deal of indulgence.
I can only say it is disappointing that he does not show the same determination with the enemies of the West and of the United States, whose leaders he instead treats with far greater indulgence. There is one thing he should remember: neither I nor Italy ever beg.
Now, Italy's Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani cancelled his visit to America from 21st to 22nd of June, where he was set to attend an Italy-U.S. business forum in Miami and meet U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Explaining his decision, he said, and I'm quoting, "The serious and offensive words of President Trump towards PM Giorgia Meloni offend all of Italy." The latest diplomatic tiff comes even as Meloni was a vocal supporter of Trump. She was the lone head of state in the European Union to attend his inauguration as U.S. president in January 2025. However, they have clashed in recent times. For instance, in April, after Meloni dubbed Trump's criticism of Pope Leo over the Iran war unacceptable, the U.S. president said she lacked courage. Now, this is not the lone European leader with whom Trump has clashed with. Although French President Emmanuel Macron laid out the red carpet for the U.S. president by hosting him for a banquet at the Palace of Versailles, they have been at loggerheads for a long time. While Macron strongly opposed U.S. forcibly clearing Strait of Hormuz through a military operation, Trump slammed France's lack of support for the Iran war. He also provoked outrage by claiming that Macron's wife, I'm quoting here, treats him extremely badly. The French president, in turn, made it clear that Trump's comments were neither elegant nor up to standard. While the U.S. president also has had a turbulent relationship with Germany's leaders. Last year, he heaped criticism on former German Chancellor Angela Merkel for opening up her country to refugees. And similarly, Trump hit out incumbent Chancellor Friedrich Merz after he castigated U.S. over the Iran war. Now, Merz flagged America's lack of an exit strategy and warned how Iran is humiliating it in negotiations. Even neighboring Canada hasn't been spared from Trump's barbs. Back in 2018, a major controversy broke out after U.S. refused to endorse the joint G7 statement, with Trump accusing the then Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of acting meekly and making false statements over tariffs between the two countries. In 2024, he even described Trudeau as a governor. Trump had also riled the present Mark Carney-led government by referring to Canada as America's 51st state. This has spurred Canada to reduce its reliance on U.S. defense firms for purchase of fighter jets. Trump's dissatisfaction with his allies over its refusal to actively participate in the Iran war has also resulted in a rethink on U.S. approach towards NATO. Recently, Washington told its allies that it will gradually scale down the number of strategic bombers, fighter jets, drones, submarines, and warships to defend NATO countries. With U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth announcing NATO 3.0, a 6-month Pentagon review of American forces in Europe. It is apparent that America's ties with Europe are far from sorted.